किसकी कमान? अपने जनरल की। कौन है आपका जनरल? इधर देखो, आज के बाद अर्जुन की तरह हमें सिर्फ मछली की आंख दिखनी चाहिए, सिर्फ मछली की आंख।
एक राजा था, जो भी कर लो मरता ही नहीं था। उस राजा की जान एक तोते की गर्दन में अटकी। तोते की गर्दन मरोड़ दी और राजा मर गया। हमारे राजा की जान इस वैक्सीन में अटकी।
अब बताओ वैक्सीन बनेगी या नहीं?
सब बहुत जल्दी बनेगी, सबसे पहले बनेगी और सबसे ज्यादा सुरक्षित बनेगी। भारत की एकमात्र भारत के
जय 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 मातरम मातरम वंदे मातरम वंदे मातरम श्रेष्ठ भारत श्रेष्ठ भारत जय मातरम मातरम।
So now I will take you to this story.
Sorry.
इस कहानी को स्लाइड्स के से और जो स्टोरी थी, ट्रू स्टोरी, उसको मैं आपको बताऊंगा। ICMR आप जानते हैं इज एन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन व्हिच वाज द ओल्डेस्ट साइंस बॉडी। 27 इंस्टीट्यूट हैं, 50 फील्ड स्टेशन हैं, पैन इंडिया प्रेजेंस है, 900 करीब साइंटिस्ट हैं। और जिस तरीके की मेहनत ICMR ने इस कोविड में की, वो पुरानी हिस्ट्री में भी मलेरिया सर्वे, चाहे मलेरिया के नोबेल प्राइज़ रॉनल्ड रॉस को मिला हो, या लिशमनिया डोनोवान ने कालाजार साइकिल, वो भी ICMR से जुड़े हुए थे, उनको भी नोबेल प्राइज़ मिला। ट्यूबरक्लोसिस डोमिसिलरी ट्रीटमेंट, फर्स्ट ओरल पोलियो वैक्सीन, प्रोटीन एनर्जी malnutrition, oral rehydration therapy, first test tube baby outside of United Kingdom, and the double fortified salt. These are some policy decisions which have been made, and ICMR has been leading the nation. So I salute to the scientists, salute to the citizens of India who listen to the guidelines that were given by our leadership, by our organization, and we were able to fight COVID much better than many parts. So I will take you back. Now, I am a cardiologist. How I got into this? I was at ICMR. 31st of December 2019, China declared to the world that COVID is a new virus and it is killing people and it is lethal. 7 January, Ministry of Health, Government of India, ICMR ने एक मीटिंग की और उसमें डिस्कशन हुआ कि इसके लिए हम लोग को व्हाट स्क्रीनिंग हैव वी टू डू एट द एयरपोर्ट्स एंड व्हाट हैव वी टू डू। दिस इज 7th of January 2020. Now we are not having a single case of COVID in India, and that was the biggest advantage that we had, that COVID occurred in India about 2 to 3 months later than what was happening in the Western world. So, what happened on the 26th of January? One medical student flew from Wuhan to Hong Kong, Hong Kong to Calcutta, Calcutta to Bangalore, Bangalore to Cochin, and then by bus to her hometown in Kerala. Next day she had fever. 27th of January we tested her samples and found it was COVID positive. We did not declare it to the world, we did not declare it to India yet. We took the samples again, sent it to our laboratory in ICMR NIV Pune, National Institute of Virology, confirmed, and on 28th of January we told the government that COVID virus has entered our country. The government was serious from the very beginning and swung into immediate action. There was a group of secretaries created. On top of the group of secretaries, there were group of secretaries for PPE, group of secretaries for masks, group of secretaries for vaccine, group of secretaries for testing, for oxygen, for quarantine centers, for drugs, and on top of that, there was a group of ministers. Group of secretaries was meeting every day from the 28th of January, every day. Group of ministers was meeting once a week to oversee what decision had to be taken. Now, our leadership was strong and it was serious from the beginning. So we did not talk of herd immunity. It was a whole of government approach, and the philosophy was test, track, treat, and not herd immunity. So what happened in the first meeting of the group of secretaries, it was discussed, have we enough testing kits? We said, yes, we have only one laboratory, that is ICMR NIV Pune, which is testing for COVID-19. We need to scale that up. The government's swing into action. The ICMR did major things, including, and I will talk briefly about these points, countrywide scaling up of laboratories from 1 to 3,000, validation of diagnostic kits and local manufacturers, and there's a youngster like you people who have created the startups and made India self-sufficient in testing for COVID-19. Nationwide sero survey, 4 rounds which were done, indigenous vaccine development, preclinical studies, and then use of social behavioral research, stigma, and then drones. Now this is the first BSL-4 laboratory in the Southeast Asia region. And I congratulate and salute my predecessors at ICMR who set this up in 2011. This was the first laboratory, and I must put into record that the second laboratory in Southeast Asia region was the Wuhan lab set in 2017. And Wuhan lab was much later than. From 2011, samples from India, viral samples, did not go out. Everything was tested. This laboratory is in Pune at ICMR, National Institute of Virology, heavily guarded, electrical wire fencing, negative pressure. You can enter it only after special permissions, and there all the viruses are there, whether it be polio virus, it is a repository of all the dangerous viruses, and they are kept there. And this is where much of the testing started. Now, I'm talking about February. We had only one case of COVID-19. We wanted the virus for testing, for getting vaccine development, for making kits. ELISA kit banane ke liye virus. We asked the WHO, they refused to give us. We asked many developed countries, they refused to give us. We asked United Kingdom, USA, please give us some sample of the virus so that we can make antibodies, we can try ELISA kits, we can try to develop a vaccine. We had 15 Italian tourists who were visiting India in February. And these Italian tourists were in Rajasthan, Agra, they were in Jaipur, Jodhpur, and in Agra they fell ill. So we got all 15 Italian tourists to Delhi, and we got their samples and sent those samples to Pune, and they isolated and cultured the virus, and we got the virus concentrated. We were the 5th country in the world to isolate the virus, characterize the virus. Once we had the virus, it opened vistas of all kinds of things to be done. And we were the first country in the world to culture the alpha and the beta virus, which were in the United Kingdom and also later on in other parts of the world. So now coming back to testing, in February we had limited testing. We asked the WHO, they gave us 10,000 kits for a population of 1.4 billion. We asked some of our youngsters, our startups, Department of Biotechnology, DST, ICMR, they funded those startups. And we asked China for kits, they said you buy these kits in 2 hours, otherwise we will divert them to another country. And many of them were faulty. So we had, and we have all read about that. So we had to have our own kits to be made. And the youngsters were responsible for setting up these kits, and we were able to set up these kits by March. We had these kits, and by May, June, we were self-sufficient and exporting these kits to many parts of the world. And that is because of the startup and because of the There's one little story I want to add about the TrueNat. TrueNat is a testing molecular diagnostic test which was used for tuberculosis, developed by two young scientists in 2010 from Indian Institute of Science. This was funded by DBT and then by DST and later funded by ICMR for the clinical trials, and they got WHO pre-qualification in 2017 for TB testing. And many of these TrueNat kits were across the country for TB testing. In the month of March, April, we repurposed those kits for COVID testing. We were the first country in the world to use portable molecular diagnostics for COVID testing. The United Kingdom developed a similar kit which was deployed in September of 2020 called DNA Nudge. So we were ahead of many things. Again, the advantage was that we got some extra time for preparation. Then the antigen test. The rapid antigen test, when we had the first wave of COVID-19 in Delhi in June of 2020, then we deployed the rapid antigen kit after Korea, and then we started manufacturing those kits and we started exporting it to many parts of the world. September, the WHO approved rapid antigen kits. We had already started using them. We did not bother about international recommendations. We were given strict instructions by the leadership. The Indian science has to lead India. And that is what we were trying to do. So this is the molecular tests which were deployed. On the left-hand side, you can see how many of them were available in many parts of the country. They were for tuberculosis. They got WHO pre-qualification in 2018, but in 2020, we were the first country to start using it for COVID-19 testing. And then on June 8th, by the Medical Council of India, we passed a gazette notification that every medical college in the country should have a BSL-2 laboratory, and 600 laboratories were created in several weeks on a war footing. Now comes the story of the lockdown. Since February, the Cabinet Secretary was holding meetings of group of secretaries for lots of things. They were stopping travel from different countries. They stopped travel from China, from Hong Kong, selectively, very little. We were quite anxious and we were repeatedly telling him, please stop all international travel. On 10th of March, the Cabinet Secretary asked me, can you give us recommendation on what should be done for COVID-19 on one piece of paper? We had discussions within the ICMR, National Task Force, and we made 2 bullet points on one piece of paper. Number 1, stop all international travel. Number 2, impose a countrywide lockdown so that we can spruce up or increase our healthcare infrastructure so that the curve may not become like this. We will be able to flatten it and distribute the curve of COVID-19. 2 points we gave to the Cabinet Secretary. He says there is a lot of clarity in your mind. We said yes. He says on 18th of March, you make a presentation before the leadership. 18th of March 2020, he made a presentation towards the leadership. He listened carefully and he said, are we going to go like this, like Italy, Spain, United Kingdom? I said yes, but if we impose a lockdown, we can flatten the curve and not go like this, but go slightly prolonged so that we get time to make new healthcare facilities. He just listened carefully, but he clearly gave one instructions. Only science will lead this war. That was the issue. The next day, there was the Janata Andolan, and 2 days later, the national lockdown was imposed. Now, what happened during this lockdown was that since ICMR had done the first diagnosis, ICMR became the nerve center for COVID-19. We had the headquarters in Delhi. We called 40 of our scientists. They were staying in the guest house 3 kilometers away in the Asian Game Village, and they were captive for 3 months. This included virologists, pharmacologists, medicine specialists, statisticians, ethicists, and all fields, and they were meeting every day till around 11-12 o'clock at night, and they were guiding how testing kits have to be sent to which part. We had the Indian Railways, we had the Indian Post, Indian Air Force, Research Analysis Wing, Intelligence Bureau, everything was at ICMR headquarters. That became the nerve center for COVID-19. And we, during the lockdown, were trying to advise what can be done and testing kits, PPEs to different parts of the country. So now the lockdown in India was a very balanced one. Buddha's middle path. It was not a strict lockdown like I saw found in China, or like a lockdown in the Western countries where no one listened to the lockdown. And so I congratulate the population of India, the people of India who listened to what was the advisories given by the government in terms of the lockdown. Here I would like to put, anyway we'll come to that. So during the lockdowns we kept the windows open, we let the knowledge flow in and we distilled the knowledge. हिंदुस्तान के लिए हम लोग को क्या करना है, भारत के लिए क्या करना है, वो हम लोग को गाइडलाइंस देते रहे। एक छोटी कहानी और, 6000 शिया पिलग्रिम्स ईरान गए हुए थे कुंभ में इज द बेस्ट कारपेट्स इन द वर्ल्ड आर मेड इन कुंभ। तो कुंभ गए हुए थे तो वो स्टैंडर्ड थे, तो हम लोग को नेक्स्ट डे एक बोला गया कि उन पिलग्रिम्स को वापस बुलाइए, उनको टेस्ट करिए या कोई तरीका निकालिए। भारत के ये कारगिल वहाँ से आए हैं, कारगिल से, और इनको वापस लाना है। 24 घंटे के अंदर हम लोग के 6 साइंटिस्ट और टेक्निकल ऑफिसर्स को फ्लाइट से ईरान वीज़ा विद टेस्टिंग इक्विपमेंट एवरीथिंग करके भेज दिया गया। They reached Iran. Iran was burning at that time. People were dying. They had no testing capabilities, nothing. The laboratory could not be set up in the city. If it was set up in the city, they would want their people to be tested. So it was set up in the basement of the Indian Embassy in Iran. We tested all those samples. All those who were negative, 85% of them were transported immediately back by flight by Iran Airlines, Indian Air Force, Air India, and they were brought back to the quarantine centers. Now here, quarantine centers कैसे बनाए गए? ITBP, BSF, Indian Air Force, रोज मीटिंग्स होती थी कैबिनेट सेक्रेटरी, कहाँ बनाया जाएगा क्वारंटाइन बेस, कैसा बनाया जाएगा। हिंडन एयर फोर्स बेस में, जोधपुर में, जैसलमेर में, जाड़ों का मौसम था, फरवरी, रजाइयाँ होनी हैं, ब्लैंकेट्स होने हैं, वाटर होना है, फूड होना है, people will come, all that has to be arranged, testing has to be arranged. That was done on a work with the whole of government approach. Everyone worked together, and that was, again, here I want to put on record the strength and the efficiency of our bureaucracy. हम लोग the health secretary and myself would write an advisory by 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening. By 12 o'clock, and we used to write to all principal secretaries and all chief secretaries of all states and all union territories. By 12 o'clock, it used to reach them. Early morning, action was taken across India, and that is the strength of our bureaucracy, which we have to appreciate. It works well. Here, airlift from Wuhan, we airlifted medical students, other students from Singapore, Middle East, also our neighbors for students from Pakistan, Nepal, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka. They were all brought back by special flights which the Indian Air Force had started. Now, before the vaccine, what were the medicines useful for COVID-19? क्या दवाइयाँ थी? कोई दवाइयाँ नहीं थी। बहुत सी दवाइयाँ बताई गई, ये काम करेगा, वो काम करेगा। 600 odd treatments were given to ICMR, and we did not find any one of them working. However, 3 major contributions in the world which contributed to COVID-19. One was recovery trial, which clearly showed that steroids are working and reduce mortality in COVID-19 from the United Kingdom. The second trial was by the WHO. Remdesivir reduces the hospitalization. Hospitalization के 11 दिन की जगह 7 दिन लोग hospitalized हुए. Again, funded by the United States. We were part of it, and that was done. The third major contribution in the world was by India, where we clearly demonstrated by a randomized trial, which was called the Placid trial, published in the British Medical Journal, conducted by district hospitals, not the big institutes, by video control from ICMR, We randomized patients to receive plasma and not receive plasma, and we clearly demonstrated that plasma did not lead to reduction in progress to severe disease or even death. तो ये मेजर ट्रायल थी, ब्रिटिश मेडिकल जर्नल में छपा, 2 एडिटोरियल्स लिखे गए, हाउ इंडिया democratized research, how even district hospitals and primary health centers were recruiting patients and how we were able to control it and ensure the quality and do a randomized trial during the lockdown. So this was done during the तो जब वायरस हम लोग के पास 9 मार्च को हम लोग ने वायरस आइसोलेट कर दिया था और उसके बाद हमको इलाइजा किट बनाना था. सो दिस 20th मार्च तक लॉकडाउन शुरू हो गया. How to make the ELISA kit. There were pharma companies in whole of Gujarat and Maharashtra. There was the National Institute of Virology in Pune who had the virus. They were traveling by car every day and all the experiments were being done, and 7 pharma companies were able to make the ELISA kit for the first time, and this ELISA kit was used for the sero survey for finding out from the blood samples that what is the prevalence of COVID-19 in the country. तो कोविड कवच इलाइजा हम लोग ने बनाया और कार से लोग आते थे, चाहे कैडिला हो, चाहे सिप्ला हो, चाहे many other companies they worked with ICMR and they were able to develop these kits. अब मैं ये बताना चाहूँगा कि जो सिरो सर्वे करे गए 28,000 लोगों पे 700 विलेजेस 70 डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स की स्टेट से ICMR के साइंटिस्ट PPE पहन के मास्क लगा के वाइजर लगा के गांव से गांव गए, ब्लड सैंपल लिया, जहां जाते थे लोग उनके ऊपर फूल छिड़क रहे हैं, माला पहना रहे हैं. They collected these samples and within a week's time 28,000 samples were collected, and we demonstrated that this prevalence of COVID-19 is only 0.7%. That means that 99.3% of the 1.4 billion population is still vulnerable. When we gave these results to the government was a bit scared. How will the people take it? We explained that we have to use it in a positive sense, that since 99.73% are still vulnerable, they should use precautions, they should use masks, they should have restrictive movement, and then these results within 3 or 4 days were released to the country, and then the 4 different sero surveys were done, and we were able to show that by 1 year's time it was 66.7% at antibodies. Now the development of the vaccine, and you have seen the movie, you have seen the trailer of the picture. Uska, it is available on Hotstar and Netflix, and aap isko dekhiye. It is how women scientists of India have demonstrated resilience, courage, and how they were able to survive. So 9 मार्च को हम लोग ने वायरस आइसोलेट किया. 31 मार्च को हम लोग ने भारत बायोटेक के साथ MOU साइन करके उनको वायरस दिया. 30 अप्रैल को उन्होंने हम लोग को कई वैक्सीन कैंडिडेट दिए जो हम लोग ने रैट्स, मंकीज, माइस के एक्सपेरिमेंट किए. ये हम लोग एक्सपेरिमेंट करते गए. हम लोग के 2 अप्रोचेस थे. एक तो कि कोविशील्ड जो सीरम का है उसको स्केल अप किया जाए, उसको इंडिया में लगाया जाए, और 80% वैक्सीनेशन इसी से था क्योंकि इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर बहुत था सीरम इंस्टीट्यूट. दूसरा था कि हम लोग अपनी ओन इंडिजिनस वैक्सीन बनाएं जिसको भारत बायोटेक के साथ हमने वायरस दिया था. उसके लिए वी डिड दी वैक्सीन ट्रायल्स ऑन रैट्स एंड मंकीज, and we clearly demonstrated safety and immunogenicity and also the dosage, and this was published in iScience, and a cover story on this because we had used a new adjuvant which is also the cover story of iScience. As we can see the first one on the left, and then we published the second paper. Now the question was that we know that these vaccines are working, but we need to do some monkey trials. Now, monkeys कहाँ से लाए गए? Monkeys, only one country, India में, because of animal activists, monkeys work has gone down tremendously. Monkeys were not available in many places. How to get those monkeys? All the trials for Covishield and the other vaccines in different parts of the world were done on monkeys supplied from China. So where do we get the monkeys? We can capture them, but there was lockdown, there was no food, They're all gone into the forest. So we got immediate permission from the CPCSCA, from the Animal Husbandry. 24 घंटे में हम लोग को permission मिली. Then we sent a team of ICMR and IB to capture monkeys. तेलंगाना border, कर्नाटक border पे जाके हफ्ते भर के बाद, 10 दिन के बाद, they were able to capture 20 monkeys. These monkeys were taken to the ICMR and IB air-conditioned cages, negative pressure, BSL-4 laboratory, and they were captured there and kept there. Now we had to test the vaccine on them. Once I had captured the monkeys, I got several letters, several phone calls from animal activists. Dr. Bhargav, I am told that you are going to capture monkeys. मैंने कहा अश्वत्थामा हटो, sir, I am not going to capture monkeys. I had already captured them. I am not going to capture them. Anyway, that problem sorted out. Then अब मंकीज़ को कैसे टेस्ट किया? उनको वैक्सीन तो दे दी गई, अब उनको वायरस चैलेंज देना है. वायरस चैलेंज देने के लिए उनको ब्रोंकोस्कोपी करनी है. उनकी ब्रोंकोस्कोपी करने के लिए उनको वायरस अंदर देना है, 3rd जनरेशन ऑफ ब्रोंक, और फिर ब्रोंकियोअल्वेओलर लावाज रोज़ कलेक्ट करना है. एक रेस्पिरेटरी साइंटिस्ट हमारा ICMR हेडक्वार्टर में था, उसको स्पेशल फ्लाइट से हमने पूना भेजा. पूना के CTC आर्मी हॉस्पिटल के एक और पल्मोनोलॉजिस्ट से रिक्वेस्ट किया, आर्मी के कमांड से उन्होंने उसको डिप्लॉय किया. दोनों जनों को कैप्टिव ICMR and IB के गेस्ट हाउस में 1 महीने के लिए बंद कर दिया. They were doing all the animal experiments at ICMR and IB Pune. For 20 monkeys vaccinated, virus given, anesthetized, bronchoscopy से bronchial lavage every day collect किया गया. 14 दिन के बाद देखा no virus is growing. That means the vaccine worked. That was the turning point that this vaccine BB152A is effective, and the dosage we had already calculated from monkeys, from small animals. Safety, immunity was calculated. Can we start phase 1 of human trials? We got permission for doing the phase 1 human trials, and then this paper of preclinical monkeys was sent for publication to Nature Medicine. किसी को पता चल गया कि पेपर भेजा गया है, ICMR में एक्सपेरिमेंट्स हो गए हैं. इंडिया वर्किंग अगेंस्ट इंडिया, दे रोट टू द जर्नल that these monkeys are captured monkeys, they are not from breeding facility, they should not be published. So the journal wrote to us, we sent the health certificate of each and every monkey, all the biochemical reports, all the X-ray, IGRA tests, TB tests, every one was sent of all the 20 monkeys to the journal, and then they published it. And after that, we were able to get this publication. And then we had the clinical trial, phase 1 published in Lancet, phase 2 published in Lancet, phase 3 published in Lancet, and then the WHO pre-qualification, US FDA approval, and marketing, and that is the story. Little bit more story about the monkeys. ये monkeys जो हैं, pre-pandemic $2,000 का एक monkey बिकता था. और दुनिया की सारी वैक्सीन जो टेस्ट हुई हैं, वो monkeys चाइना से जाते थे. चाइना और US के रिलेशन खराब हुए कोविड पैंडमिक में, तो ड्यूरिंग द पैंडमिक कहीं मंकी मिलता नहीं था, नॉट अवेलेबल. पोस्ट पैंडमिक $20,000 का एक मंकी मिलता है. टुडे इट इज़ $20,000 per monkey, and many countries like Vietnam, Cambodia, and even in India, we have set up excellent state-of-the-art monkey breeding facilities at Hyderabad and at Sasuk Nagar in Maharashtra, which are state-of-the-art, and
Jai!
we are breeding those monkeys, and they are being used for ethically for experiments in animals. This is the journey of the Covaxin vaccine, and then the vaccine stamp was released, and we were able to. So India is known as the pharmacy of the world because 60% of the generic medicines in the world are supplied from India. But with Covaxin, we proved that we could manufacture vaccines from start to finish, and India is now a vaccine superpower.
Jai! Jai!
ये स्लाइड मैं आपको दिखाना चाह रहा हूँ. इसमें सन 47 में हमारे फर्स्ट हेल्थ मिनिस्टर राजकुमारी अमृत कौर, जिनका विजन था जिससे ऑल इंडिया इंस्टीट्यूट्स पूरे हिंदुस्तान में बने. पहले एम्स दिल्ली बना और फिर उसके बाद सारे हिंदुस्तान में बने. she is receiving a packet of medications from the High Commissioner of Canada at Bombay Seaport. And this is nothing other than penicillin. After receiving that penicillin, Hindustan Antibiotics and India became a major powerhouse of pharmaceuticals, and these antibiotics were created and they were manufactured. 2021, India sent its vaccines to 100 countries, including Canada. For vaccine development, the government and the scientists and the population at large who were volunteers for the phase 1, phase 2 need to be congratulated. The funding, the preclinical studies, the clinical studies, laboratory studies, epidemiology studies, roll-in review of the drug controller, advanced purchase orders, at-risk manufacturing, raw material import, expedited batch testing and release, and for expedited batch testing, several, earlier it was only Kasauli, अब दिल्ली में भी है, नोएडा में भी है,